Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. My name is Cesar Hernandez, and today we're going to discuss the recent Liga MX Clasicos, Piojo Herrera being yelled at by photographers, the CCL, Tata Martino, and much, much more. But before we get into that, let's introduce tonight's guest, and let's also go over the big question of the day. So we'll start with Tom Marshall over in Guadalajara. Tom, welcome. Here's a big question. Will a Liga MX club once again win the CCL title? And if so, which team will it be?
Ooh, big question.
Well, you gotta answer.
Wait, really?
Let's see. We'll give Tom a second.
Yeah, no, I think a Mexican club will win. I just think the best two teams in Liga MX are in this competition, and I think they're going to try with everything to win it. And I'm saying Tigres and Monterrey. So I think I'm going to go Monterrey to win the title. I think it's going to be like last year, another really close battle between the MLS and Liga MX clubs. But at the end of the day, I think the MLS clubs are improving, and they are giving a better fight to the Liga MX clubs, a more consistent fight maybe. But I just still think they have to prove it on the pitch, and until they haven't done so far, you know what I mean. So I think you have to go with the Mexican teams, and specifically because it's the two best teams are up there. Because I think the counter question could be if Monterrey and Tigres weren't in, and you just substituted them for say even a Chivas and I don't know, just name Pachuca. Club de Cuervos. La Pesta Negra.
La Pesta Negra.
They never get past them. But yeah, if you have to put like Pachuca and Chivas instead of Monterrey and Tigres, then would you still say the same? And I think then it'd be a real debate. You'd have to think long and hard about it. But as it is, I think you have to go with the Mexican teams.
All right. We also have Gary Torres here from Dallas, Texas. Gary, same question to you. Do you agree with Tom right there?
You're going to say something Texan then for some reason.
No, dude, I can't.
I think you're going to say howdy or something.
Howdy?
Howdy, y'all.
Howdy, yeah. I don't even know how to do a Texan accent. I don't even know what I just did there with my howdy. But anywho, Gary, how are you doing? Same question to you.
Hey, guys. Welcome tonight. I'm honestly going to go with Monterrey. I'm going to go with Tom just because they have done pretty good this season. In the league. Last season, I criticized them a lot because I feel like they had the stacked squad and they were just lacking a style of play. They were lacking everything with the whole roster that they have. They should be able to, deliver on the field, and they came up short. So this season, I feel they have a lot of heart. They have a more defined style. Like I actually am excited to see a Monterrey. So I feel like Monterrey is going to be dominant, and I hope that they translate that onto the CCL, and I actually see them going far. So I'm going to go with Monterrey, dominant.
Yeah, I'm still. I do think that a Liga MX team is going to win it. I'm not sure how far Monterrey is going to make it. Is it crazy to think that Atlanta United might make things difficult for them? I don't know. Like I feel like maybe they should be taken lightly there, but nonetheless, I feel like it is going to be a Liga MX team that's going to win it all. I think Tigres obviously have a good chance too, and I think Bickles don't really have that tough of a path, I think, to the final either. Looking past Saprissa, I don't think you should take Saprissa lightly, but Tigres are still the favorites. Like I think Tigres could easily qualify for the final, win it all too.
Yeah, what Tigres in the next round would have Houston Dynamo or Guastatoya.
Yeah.
You expect him to come through. I think Saprissa will actually that's a tough ask because going down to Costa Rica, one of the big teams, it's never easy. They're without Pizarro, they're without Gignac, and they're out without I can't remember who else now, without another player there. But yeah, going back,
it's Zlarayan and Guido Pizarro and
Zlarayan. Yeah. But it's like the thing with Monterrey as well. What Carrie was saying there, it's the depth as well. You saw them at the weekend, and they just, you could see then Diego Alonso's team. Who were they playing again? I can't remember now. But he rotated.
Yeah.
Yeah, against Manuel, because you saw the first signs that this is what he's going to do now. He's going to start rotating, and you saw, Carlos Rodriguez was suddenly on the bench, and I think Hurtado missed out, if I'm not mistaken, as well. And Pavon, sorry, he was on the bench. So I don't know, they're just so deep as well. And yeah, I think I look at the MLS teams as well, and I think it's going to be good. I mean, New York Red Bulls against Santos potentially in the quarterfinal. That'd be really, really good. I mean, Red Bulls, I thought did well last time out in CONCACAF Champions League. I think they were very disappointed.
Their goalkeeper did well, is what happened right there. It's a Luis Robles or something like that. He was killing it out there.
I mean, obviously against Cholos, but against Chivas, I mean, Chivas was slightly lucky there. You know what I mean? I think that's what we've seen, especially last year. We saw, they got some luck to get past Cholos, but then Chivas had luck to get past them. You know what I mean? It just seemed a bit more even, but they're going to be determined to win the thing now. I mean, I think that's the other thing we're seeing, that these MLS teams are even more determined. Toronto as well. Obviously, they've got Toluca. Toluca in pretty bad form. If both of them go through, sorry. And then Atlanta, obviously, that's the massive one. It would be massive to see Atlanta against Monterrey. 50,000+ in Monterrey, and then 50,000-60,000 up there in Atlanta. I mean, then it would become it would almost be a kind of like a real Champions League kind of clash in terms of the atmosphere generated.
Are you saying it's not a real Champions League, Tom?
The champions, but yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it. To be honest, I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, I think Santos Laguna are desperate for that first title. From the Mexican side, I think Tigres are desperate for that first title. In fact, that's been the one thing that's been missing from Tigres with Tuca Ferretti has been the international title. Runner-up in the Libertadores, they've failed to bring this title home. So, Carlos Salcedo even said it at his unveiling, that he wants to go to the Club World Cup. I don't really get the obsession with the Club World Cup, but I do think this, being the continental champion is good.
Yeah, so Kari, let's dive into it. Let's start off the show. Talk about more CCL stuff. We were going to save it for later, but why not just jump into right now? I mean, we do have some midweek games, but for you, Kari, I think another conversation worth having is not only those teams are going to succeed, but which Liga MX team do you think will come up short? We've talked about Monterrey and Tigres doing quite well, but do you feel the same way about Santos or Toluca?
I think Toluca will come up short. I think it's been a terrible past couple games for Toluca. I mean, obviously they lost a lot of great players, and they've also gained great players, but I think they're still trying to find their way. And I feel like every week I'm like, is Cristante going to leave, or are they going to fire him? Because I feel like especially this season, it's just been like a trend. It's like we already saw with Rafa Puente. So it's like, okay, is Toluca doing this bad? Like, how are they going to survive in CCL? I mean, obviously, there's other, pretty dominant teams in MLS, but Toluca, I don't see them going far. Santos, I feel like they have the potential. I feel the past, 2, 3, 4 games, they've been kind of struggling in Mexican League, but usually they can turn it on for, other tournaments. So I think in the order, if you want me to put in an order, I'm actually going to do Monterrey, Santos, Tigres, and then Toluca.
Wait, so where Tigres going to finish then?
I mean, I'm not fully convinced. I mean, we saw the game this weekend against Necaxa. Like, they almost got a draw. So
the defense is still a little. I feel like I don't know. When I think of some issues with Tigres, I feel like Tuca hasn't really figured out his back line yet. Maybe it was because the inclusion of Salcedo made things a little confusing. I feel like sometimes he doesn't know whether he wants to go with a 4-man back line or a 3-man back line. And yeah, I think it was I completely so it was they got the 3-2 win over Necaxa, right? And if I remember that win, I think they allowed something like 17 shots in that game, and like 2 of them hit the woodwork too. So it's not like the back line is really, really good either. So now, no, I'm saying that with the full knowledge that someone named Carlos Salcedo is in the roster. I'm well aware of that. But yeah, it seems like there's just something a little off about them sometimes defensively. So I still think though I don't know. I think they're going to make a deep run though. But yeah, but that is interesting.
I think they will too. I just think if I had to choose both Regios, which team, I think I would go with Monterrey 100%. But Toluca will come up short. I believe it.
Tom, who do you think will come up short? Yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, I think you have to say Toluca just because they've been so, I don't know, it's just weird to put your finger on what's gone on. seems to me like because they started the season really well and they were winning games, and then all these signings came, it's almost like it's difficult to kind of bed new players when, almost when a team's winning. It's almost worse. Do you know what I mean? If your team's losing and the new guys come in, it's like, oh, nice one. It gives everybody a bit of a lift. But when you've got a team that's winning and then all of a sudden, new faces come and it's like, oh, are they going to take my spot? But what have I done to deserve losing my spot, if you know what I mean? And I'm not sure if there was a kind of element of that. I've never been a massive fan of Cristante either, to be honest. I don't know. I've not seen his kind of hand in the Toluca team. I don't know. Really establishing an identity and a team that excites. You know what I mean? I'm never. When it's a Toluca game, I'm never kind of really genuinely excited. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas you get kind of passages with certain Liga MX teams, like, for example, Leon right now. I mean, it's like Leon playing, you're suddenly like, whoa, this is a team that goes out there, scores goals. It's good to watch. It might leak a few goals as well, but, they're a good side to watch. And Toluca for quite a while now just haven't been that team that, that genuinely excites. It's more of a kind of, the average age is really high. It just seems more like a team that kind of grinds out results, gets the job done, but doesn't really necessarily excite. So, yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, but I mean, at the end of the day, they play in Kansas City. I think they should get past Kansas City, to be honest. And then after that, obviously, I don't know, who is it after that? It could be Toronto.
Independiente
could be Toronto,
or Toronto, yeah.
So you'd expect Toronto, and then it, but at the same time, like if we'd have said this exact conversation 1 year ago, and we did have it. I remember saying it. Everybody basically said Chivas are the weak team out of the Mexicans,
Yeah.
And Chivas went on to win it. So it's not like Toluca at any moment could put a couple of results together. They're perfectly capable. They've got the players, and they can go and win this thing. There's also no doubt about that. It's kind of what I kind of like about this competition as well. It is a bit more, unpredictable than possibly the UEFA Champions League, in that sense that you don't know which. I mean, it's pretty predictable about Mexican teams generally tend to win it, but in terms of which one, it's difficult to predict.
I think either Toluca is going to struggle and barely make it to the quarterfinals, or they're going to get knocked out in the round of 16. I don't know. I think the more I look into it, the more I see Sporting Kansas City and what they did last season. I think they finished in first place of the Western Conference and got knocked out in the semis of the playoffs. But I was reading some sort of like preseason piece on like MLS teams, and people are thinking that Sporting Kansas City could do quite well this season. I know what the disadvantage they have is that the season hasn't started yet, and Toluca are in mid-season form. But Toluca is also, I mean, if you're speaking of form, they're in terrible form right now and have 4 losses and 1 draw in their last 5 games. And I mean, I do agree with what you said there, Tom, about some of the new players at Maidana and Gigliotti, that there is potential there. But I don't know, when I saw them a couple weeks back in Tijuana, there was nothing really that exciting about them, and it was pretty. I don't know, like if I was a Toluca fan in the stands, it would have been very, very disappointing with that forward play. Maybe they need a little bit more time to gel. Maybe they need some more time to really work things together. But I don't know. If I was a Toluca fan, I would not be feeling very confident. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they get knocked down the round of 16. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that game. I mean, I don't know. I like these. I like the new format of the competition. I like the fact that it's set up to kind of MLSLiga MX games, and I think it does bring at least a bit more excitement. You know what I mean? And I think the day that an MLS team does win, then I think in Mexico the competition will take off, because it's still in Mexico within the press and stuff. It's not that much of a big deal because a Mexican team tends to win it. And I think until MLS club wins 1 and then wins 3 in 5 years, then I think we're going to see kind of the interest in Mexico rise, because then all of a sudden it's the Americans or the Canadians that are they've beaten the Mexican teams, and the rivalry will kind of start to grow a bit, because at the minute it's difficult in Mexico specifically, because not in the States, because everyone loves it, because everyone's like, is this the year? Is this the year? But I think in Mexico it's just like, yeah. You say that every year. Is this the year? And it's never the year. So I think for the Mexican public to sit up and take notice of the tournament, needs an MLS team to win it.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. First legs are this week of the round of 16, but let's move on. Let's go. Let's talk some Liga MX. Let's talk some Clásico Tapatio. Gotti, 3-0 win for Chivas over Atlas. I mean, your thoughts on the game? That's as convincing as it gets, right?
Obviously, Clásico's a Clásico, no matter how everybody views it. If it's 5 goals scored, 1 goal scored, it's a Clásico. And who showed out? Alexis Vega, and he needed to show out with a hat trick. Beautiful, every single goal executed by him. It was just awesome. I think everybody, since week 1, we're pressuring him to score, and game by game, and nothing. So I think this was the perfect scenario for Alexis Vega to show out, and he did. Obviously, it's Atlas that last season struggled, and defensively they're not that great. But I think another player that really stood out for me was just Conejo Brizuela, because he's always been really consistent, and him pairing up with Vega was awesome. So I really enjoyed the game. I'm glad Chivas won, and especially Alexis Vega, because I really like this young striker. I think it's a striker that Mexico has for the future. He just needed an opportunity. Obviously, like in Mexican media, he needed to go to a big team to get a call up with a selección, and that's what happened. So now with these 3 goals, it's the start of a great, scoring season for him as of right now. So I enjoyed it, but I know Tom was there, so.
Yeah, but who cares about Tom? I'm just kidding, Tom. I'm just joking. Tom, your thoughts on the match? You were there at the Clásico. You had some great. What I love about the stuff that you do online is like you always do like great like pregame like content. There's always like some sort of like awesome photo that you take. Like I think you had one of the goat, and you like tagged the stray goat on there.
I love that one.
But Tom, your thoughts on the match?
He's a little celebrity now, that stray goat, isn't he? It's like a celebrity.
We're mentioning him on the pod right now.
I mean, Vega, he's loving it. Did you see the thing he posted online as well, with him driving around with the ball from his hat trick signed by all the players, just in the seat with a seatbelt in the seat next to him in his car? I can just imagine him driving around Guadalajara with the ball just in the passenger seat. And it's just like, man, fair play, you know what I mean? Fair play. You can't enjoy these days. But yeah, no, Vega great, obviously. One of the journalists asked me after the game in the press conference, said, what did you think of the game or whatever? And it was just like, a Clásico shouldn't be that easy. That was my first, my initial impression was, you can't just roll over like that, like Atlas did. I mean, Nico Pareja has come over from Sevilla. He's been injured. It's been difficult, but he played 45 minutes. He was just nowhere near ready. You're better putting in a kid from the under 20s. He just wasn't with it. He obviously gifted the first goal. Fair play, I think, to Pulido for the pressing, and Vega for the finish. But that was a mistake. And then from there, Atlas are obviously struggling. But yeah, I liked the Chivas press. I think it showed that Cardoso was kind of he's training them well. It's a different kind of identity now. I think we're clearly seeing now the difference between Cardoso and Almeida. I mean, even if you look at the possession stats, I mean, I think it was 42% Chivas. I mean, this is playing at home, against your rival. Obviously playing a 4-4-2, it's not historically as possession-based a formation compared to Atlas's basically 4-3-3 or 4-5-1. And Atlas should have dominated the midfield because they had an extra guy in midfield. But even though they had the kind of more of the play, they just didn't create anything. Barcelona was completely isolated up front. And Atlas all of a sudden, from kind of the first few games of the season, they kind of looked quite promising. Now all of a sudden, they're starting to worry, and I think that, speaking to people around the game about Atlas, I mean, there's now some certain concerns about Hoyos' ability to change the team. I mean, he seems adamant that this team is going to play out the back. They want to keep possession. They're going to attack, but they look so vulnerable against Chivas when they did have to defend. And they've got big injuries. I mean, Santa Maria was out for that game, but Lorenzo Reyes in the holding midfield role, losing him has just been an absolute disaster because he was kind of the experienced guy and the pinning it all together. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very disappointing for Atlas, and I think that I think they might struggle now. I mean, I think it's going to be difficult for them to kind of pick up after such a, I don't know, just a devastating loss. I mean, I think you put Cesar in the rundown. I mean, it was just easy. I mean, it can't be that easy in a Clásico.
Yeah, no, and Brizuela was just like killing it out there. He just made it look so. He was so good that my dad sent me. I posted this on Twitter. My dad sent me a text after the game, and he was trying to say that Brizuela is better than Lainez. So that shows you how good of a game he had there. Because I do not agree with that, Dad. But whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think at Chivas, I think the atmosphere has changed. I think the feeling within the club is that even going back to last season when things went right, I think there was kind of an understanding that they needed a clean sweep. They needed to get rid of players who were so with that Mateus Almeida. I mean, Almeida is just like, you know, I spent a bit of time with the Earthquakes there, and it's like, even after like a week working with the players, every player, you ask him, oh, do you like Almeida? What do you think of his, you know, about his hiring and stuff? And they're like, I'm absolutely convinced by it. It's so uplifting. It's exactly what we want. We want to play this type of football. And, you know, obviously that's what you do with Chivas to win the titles. But it's like a lot of the players were so linked to Almeida and so kind of, it was all centered around him. And I think that when Almeida left, obviously then it became an issue. And Cardoso has obviously had to negotiate that. And that's why the club got rid of the players that they did in the off-season. I mean, the last one, I think Salcido, no? I think Salcido they wanted to get rid because he's a leader of the dressing room, basically. So, and I think there's now kind of, there's a feeling that things are on track now with the new players coming in, that they're getting on now, and that they've kind of drawn a line under the Almeida era now. That's the feeling I get from Chivas now.
Yeah, any other final thoughts on Chivas? Because it feels like now there's a potential there that they could look like a playoff team. After there were so many questions at the very beginning of the season with all the new signings, you didn't know how well Villalpando or Mier or Vega were going to do with the new teams, because we've seen plenty of players move to Chivas and struggle. But what are your thoughts on right now, the current state of Chivas?
I think it was just going game by game, because I think we obviously witnessed the game they had versus Necaxa, and that was just like a chaotic show. And then now with Atlas, it's like everybody's gaining more confidence. And then I think they'd have the potential. I think they did great signings. I mean, Tite Villalpando holding the mid, it's fabulous. And I feel he's an underrated player that not that many people, would consider until seeing him in Chivas and knowing the role that he plays. He's a big aspect in the midfield. Mier also. I had questions about, a couple of weeks ago, wow, why don't they call him up? He's a defender that's always been very low key with the team he was in, and now moving to Chivas, he's definitely demonstrating a lot. And Alexis Vega is also finally showing out. So I think I believe in Chivas. I like the team that they have. I think that we're just gonna have to go game by game at this point. It's Liga MX. Anything can happen, We've all seen this. It's like twisty. Everything happens. I mean, my León is on a good run right now, but who knows? Maybe they'll, set back 1 or 2 games and jump back. And, we see Chivas do the same thing. America do the same thing. So
yeah, I feel like with Chivas though, it's like, it almost feels like an honest team now. Like, what you're going to get with them. Whereas I think what you were saying, Cesar, there about the start of the season, there's so many uncertainties. Yeah. I mean, Chivas might not have, a Gignac. They might not have, Funes Mori or a Maxi Mesa, or, massive signing. But it feels like you've got a group of players now who are absolutely giving everything. They're playing, 4-4-2 pretty much. And it just kind of, everybody knows the job, and they're going to be difficult to beat. They're not the best team in the league, but they're going to give it everything. And like I said, it's not going to be easy to come away from Estadio Akron this season with a win, whereas over the last year or so it has been quite easy.
Yeah.
So. Well, it's good to see that, especially after what happened there in late 2018. I'm saying as if that happened a long time ago. 2 months ago. What happened 2 months ago in the Club World Cup? Because that was definitely a complete disaster there. But let's move on. Let's talk about the Clásico Capitalino. I almost fell asleep watching that game. The first half was pretty awful. Second half got a little bit better. But Gotti, I mean, your thoughts on this? I mean, what are your thoughts on the match in general? Because I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty bored for the most part. I don't know if I'm alone in this. Maybe it's because I was like waking up early on a Sunday morning. But I guess after all the excitement of Saturday, I I just really didn't find the other Clásico that exciting.
Well, I've never been a big fan of the 12 o'clock games my time on a Sunday. That's why I would rarely watch Pumas or Toluca because they always played at that time. But obviously, this being a Clásico, I think it was a game with a lot of opportunities, but nothing really exciting per se. I think obviously the pressure on Nico starting because why he was the big signing, and which I disagree that America really needed a striker like that. But I mean, that's another topic. So he was very, very quiet. And obviously, you know, Clásico Capitalino will be a Clásico Capitalino, but there's not that much intensity. You know, Nico had one shot and it was off target. Very quiet performance. And I tweeted before the game, I was like, Pumas is going to win. And that's what happened. 1-0. And I mean, America, we'll see what happens. I mean, they struggled with León 3-0, now 1-0. They're going against Lobos. So we'll see if they will be able to bounce back because I don't know. Well, I mean, Clásico, boring Clásico, nothing compared to the Clásico Tapatio that we lived the night before.
Yeah, I definitely almost fell asleep during that match. But Tom, let's go to you. Your thoughts about maybe even your thoughts on Club America. They're down to 11th place now. It seems like fans should maybe be a little worried at this point, right? I mean, I know they have a game in hand, but they only have one win in their last 4 games.
Yeah, I'm not worried about America, to be honest. You know, I thought it was a fairly even game. I think they obviously, a bit like Toluca, obviously Nico Castillo's going to settle in. Benedetti's also going to, you know, settle in. They've had injury concerns at the start of the season. It's been, you know, basically that the whole month of January wasn't great with all the transfers. You know, it's not been ideal, but I just feel like in the next few weeks, I don't know. I just think it's going to click into gear for him. I still think they're a very, very good team, and that Herrera's got options, and so I'm not worried about him. Kind of, I think they'll make the playoffs quite comfortably. I think next match Lobos, then they've got Morelia, then they've got Puebla. So, you know, potentially in the over the next 3 games, you expect them to pick up the 9 points. So yeah, that I don't know. I couldn't understand Herrera kind of not taking Nico Castillo off either. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that just seemed weird because he was so obviously tired. You know, he's not long been in Mexico. He's not long been back, and then to ask him to play, you know, well, he's still, I don't know, or something. 80.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, you're going in now for a second, but you're good.
Yeah, no. Like sometimes we say midday kickoffs, and you know, it's difficult. You know, like why aren't they great? And I mean, I think we saw in that first half. I mean, I think it was like 22, 23, 24 degrees. I don't know. It's 80. I think
Celsius. You're talking to people who have no. I think a lot of our listeners are like, what?
No?
What is 80? Celsius?
80 or around there. But
okay,
I mean,
there you go.
You know, it's not like 35 degrees, but it's like you're playing at altitude, you're playing your rival, you know, everything's on the line. And to be asked to do that at 12 o'clock midday, you could see the players suffering. I mean, America want to be a team that kind of is dynamic, and we've seen that over the last year or so. And they just failed. They couldn't do that because I didn't feel like physically they had the kind of abilities to. I mean, it was very difficult to have a top game. Obviously, in the second half, it got so ragged, it was so open that kind of it was a bit more exciting. But yeah, I just thought the first half, and then you turned over after the game, and it was like Real Betis against Alaves. And then you saw it was at night, the pitch was watered, the ball was moving quickly, and I don't know, it just felt like I don't know. Those Pumas America games should be played at night. I mean, it just benefit absolutely everyone. So, but yeah, big win for Pumas though. I mean, for Marione, massive. First win in 11 Clasicos against America. I mean, especially after the president came out in the week and said kind of, in 2021 we're going to have some money to buy some real players. And it's like, I can't say that. Well, yeah,
I can't believe he said that. Like, right now we can't afford the great players, but just give us a couple of years and we can buy whatever player we want.
I mean, it is funny, but I mean, they lose that game and then imagine, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would have been pretty interesting to see what the reaction would have been like from the fan base, from fans, or just from the media to see what happened there. But I mean, speaking of some off the field stuff, we got to bring up the Piojo stuff. So that one photographer, he called him a loser, and it was actually kind of a great video. I mean, honestly, I couldn't help but laugh when you saw like Piojo like go up to like with one, like, I don't know, some sort of ref, and he was like, and it was kind of funny because I feel like Piojo was even like had his hand up like that as if he was like trying to show him like a red card or something, but like whatever. But then like they had him like take off his credential. Biocco was like clearly not happy about that. But it was interesting because afterwards there was this conversation that kind of like emerged online regarding the professionalism of those who do get the press passes in Liga MX and what we've seen in matches. And I don't know, Tom, what are your thoughts on this whole situation, whether it be about Piojo not being happy about that situation, someone who has been in those press boxes, maybe seen something similar, not along the lines of someone yelling loser to a coach, but
no, I mean, it was interesting because Piojo, I don't know, he's not, a lot of managers just ignore that and just get on with it because people shout at you all the time. So the first thing is, why are you bothering getting involved? Secondly, at least you didn't throw a punch because,
because we know what happened in 2015.
Because we know what he's capable of. And so those two things to start off. But yeah, I mean, there was a report, I think, in Record that the guy who was the photographer just had absolutely nothing to do with journalism. And I think there was a thing, an unofficial thing that said maybe he gave courses with it in Pumas and, motivational leadership speech and stuff. And then the guy on the
call everyone you know a loser. The way to success in life, call everyone you know a loser. That is how you get ahead. By the way, watch me this weekend in the Clásico Capitalino. I will give you a perfect example.
Horrible. So horrible.
But yeah, but I mean, I can understand what Herrera's saying to a degree as well. I mean, I remember watching the Liga MX final in the press box, sat next to a baby. Couldn't have been more than a year old. Couldn't have been more than a year old. And it's like you sit there and you're like,
Tom, a baby. Did the baby have a tiny baby credential? Did you look? Did the baby have a tiny baby credential? And maybe
baby wrote computer. A great story. The baby wrote a great story. I'm telling you. I was copying.
No, but yeah.
No, sorry. But there's all sorts that go on. I mean, it's just there's still this element of kind of if you know somebody, then you'll kind of get a press pass, and if you don't know someone, then you won't. I mean, I don't know. Like I feel like I've been here quite a while in Mexico now, covering it, and I still couldn't guarantee that. I don't know. I think I'd struggle to get press passes in a number of Liga MX clubs. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's kind of like playing chicken with a car. You know what I mean? You just have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and you just don't give in. And usually you get there, but it's never like just like, oh yeah, send an email and then like, oh yeah, cool, I'll accept it. Like obviously Chivas and Atlas, because I'm here, I feel like it's a bit more like that. Like they know me, and I don't know, but at Santos Laguna, obviously by far for me, like I said a million times, like the best club in Mexico. No doubt about it. But then other clubs are just like, I don't know. I mean, Pumas, for example, don't give phone interviews, to journalists. And I mean, it just feeds into the same thing. If you're not there, then they don't, it's just kind of a mentality. That's what I'm trying to say. And obviously this guy's got a press pass. He's there as a photographer, and it looks like he looks like he put down Reuters, which is like, it's like, I don't know. It's just that I mean, I remember when I first came to Mexico, I used to get into Estudiantes Tecos games because somebody in kind of a distant, somebody I knew kind of had a twin who was somehow linked to the media, and because they looked the same, this guy used to get like 6 credentials. And so he just used to like call us every week, and because it was on a Friday night, so it's quite a good kind of, if you're going out on a Friday night, well, you go to the Tecos game first, have a couple of drinks, and then kind of go out. You know what I mean? It's kind of a nice way to start the evening. So we just to turn up to the press office. She'd give us like 6 things. Then we just go on. But the funniest thing was when the teams came out, we'd also go on the pitch because this guy, all his job was to take one photo. And then we just go to the stands. And it was like, what's going on here? But then, when you get a bit more experience and you go around and like, I said the baby thing, But then like sometimes you're there and it's like somebody's there and the partner's just clearly with them, just sat there and it's with the club shirt on, like singing and stuff. And
I mean, yeah. In the end, it is. I think we talked about this before the show. In the end, it is kind of. I don't know. Maybe listeners are thinking like, oh, who cares? Like, you guys still get to see the games and whatnot. And I've mentioned it too. Like, in the show's press box, you do see. I mean, you've definitely seen people with press passes, like taking pictures in the mix zone with players, even though you're not supposed to. You've seen fans in the mix zone asking for autographs. I've seen friends and family coming through the press box too. So in the end, like, it's not that big of a deal. But like, we were chatting with Tom earlier, but then there comes a point where it's just like, but people are also getting turned down for press passes. People who are actually trying to cover the game are getting turned down. So it is a little weird, whether it be, I don't know, whether it be Xolos or whether it be some sort of Liga MX team, when you see legitimate fans like sitting right next to you, having some beers, hanging out with their friends. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you think,
then go and buy a ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, you're just like, I know that for a fact that they turn down press passes for people who do want to cover the team. So I think it is, if we're talking about that one isolated incident at the Clásico Capitalino, it's also important to kind of get the context of why something like that might happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, it goes to, it's that, I don't know, like we've had I remember when Chivas won the title. Probably shouldn't say this, but I've like gone to pretty much like 90% of the games, the home games. I haven't been going as much over the last like 6 months, but before then I used to go to like pretty much every single Liga MX home game, quite a lot of the cup games as well. And then it got to the final, and then they rejected my press pass, and I was like, "What are you doing? Like, I've been dragging, like how can I go to every game and report about the team and do stories in English about the team, which you just like Chivas would be kind of into, and then when it comes to the final, it's kind of like rejected, and then it's just, I don't know, it's just typical. It's how it works in Mexico. I know somebody who managed to kind of get my name written with a pen at the bottom of the list. so then you go and they don't see your name and you're written at the bottom, and it's like, well, I'm in, but the stress that caused, because I was just like, forget it. I'm just going to give up doing this now. I mean, if I'm not even going to get a press pass after covering the team all year, then forget it. Like, what's the point? And so I mean, that's the context. It's really difficult. One of the guys we know really well, who covers the game in English. I remember quite a recent final, and he'd actually travelled from the States to the games, and it was a two-legged affair. Obviously, like a normal Liga MX final. So he travelled down for the first leg, and then he got into the first leg. But then for the second leg, they rejected him. But they rejected him one day before. So he was already in town. And so then he had to kind of ring somebody else, and then, he eventually got in. But he got in not knowing an hour before kickoff whether he would get in or not, which is like, you can't work like that. I don't know. It's just one element of Liga MX that I see like all the time that makes you think there isn't that much ambition. You know what I mean? Or there might be ambition right at the top, but it doesn't filter down. It's still very kind of. But at the end of the day, and this is what I think as well, it's not rocket science to work out who's going to the game, to cover it, and who's just going for a laugh. I mean, type that guy's name in who shouted at Piojo. Just type his name in, and it comes up. The internet these days is like a big index of people.
Wait, Tom. That's not what the internet is. But continue.
Is it not?
No. But I mean, like I've definitely. And not to get specific, not to turn this into Tom and Cesar complaining about Liga MX again, but
just type in the guy's name.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, sorry, your Wi-Fi went out again, but I figured you were just saying type in his name and see what pops up right there regarding his name. But yeah, no, I've had some similar issues too. Once during a playoff game, and it was just I had to like email person to email person to go in. But anyway, but let's move on, because once we start complaining about Liga MX, we will not stop. We will not stop, and then Gotti will be like, "What am I doing here? I thought we were going to talk about the games, is what Gotti's going to be
No,
saying.
I'm always going to remember Tom's story about that Bickles. I'm always going to have a good laugh thinking about it. It just defines Liga MX. Like, you can't make things up. You think it's a joke, but it's not a joke because these things actually happen and are happening. So I agree with Tom. It's not that hard. Look them up on Twitter. Well, look at what they do. Okay, they're legit. Okay, give them a credential. If not, then no. But
I remember
it should be that simple.
We still came down here once to Guadalajara. He was staying over, and he got rejected for a game. And I remember just looking at the press booth. What's it called? The press
box.
The press box thing, and like it was like pretty much empty. And I'm just thinking, we still applied for the press pass. All the seats. It's a massive. There's loads of seats in the press box. Like, why have you rejected that? Like, you know what I mean? I remember there's another one where a club did the same as well to another friend who came down, like a known journalist. And then, like, when the guy was like, oh, why, like, he called the press officer and said, like, why, what, you know what I mean? I've come here to cover the game. And he just hung up. It's like, what are you doing, man? Anyway, sorry.
All right, let's move on.
Sorry, time over.
Complaining time over. Gotti, let's go to you on this right here. I want to hear your thoughts really quickly because just do a little bit more of a recap on some of the other noteworthy stuff in Liga MX, but just on León. You know, you're a León fan. You follow them quite closely. They got their 4th win in a row, a 3-0 victory over Toluca over the weekend. Thoughts on León's form? They're doing quite well.
I'm stoked. I was actually pissed when I was in León during the León Xolos game because I went to that one and we lost. So I was mad because now I'm seeing all these wins and I'm like, how come I wasn't there when they won? I was so pissed. But no, I think, not because it's my team, because obviously whenever León's doing bad, I'm very, I admit to what they're doing bad and it's frustrating. But I think now León's finally finding their momentum. I think, Ruben Sambueza getting injured was, hurt us, but at the same time, we see how great Mena has been doing. I think León has definitely jumped back from that loss because other than that, 4-0 against Querétaro, 2-0 against Cruz Azul, 3-0 against America, and now Toluca 3-0. León is just, they're roaring. They're roaring now. I think
roaring.
roaring.
I think it was because in the show
Lions
notes
doing Texas.
Yeah. Maybe in the show notes I typed in "rar" right next to León.
Yeah, that's why I was like roaring. My bad. But yeah, I think they're finally having their form. Menas has had a fantastic game. JJ Macias showing up. Joel Campbell, the latest addition, has been doing great. Pedro Aquino has been out injured, but we have had no problems with Montes and with Rodriguez. Even the defense is looking quite solid. So I'm really excited. I think they're a strong contender, and I do see them making La Liguilla. So
yeah, and if it wasn't for Alexis Vega getting that hat trick, the guy that we'd be talking about probably the most today would probably be Mena. Just because of how fantastic of a game he had right there, 2 goals and assists. And it's only just that one good game, but arguably potentially the player of the season so far.
He had 6 goals and 5 assists in 4 matches because he didn't start anyways. Yeah, 6 goals, 5 assists. It's just the beginning. So I'm very excited. And him and JJ Macias up linking, it's amazing. So very, very great.
Macias been great. Absolutely. Not much experience coming into the season, and then to all of a sudden, León got rid of Boselli. Those aren't easy shoes to kind of fill, and for him to come and step in there, and from the Mexican national team point of view, all of a sudden now you've got 2 strikers, 21 years old, and 19 years old Macias, 21, I think Vega, and all of a sudden you got 2 banging in goals, and it's that's what we've basically been asking for, you know what I mean? That's what we've been wanting to see. And finally, these guys have been given a kind of regular chance.
And I think for León, it was a bittersweet moment. Do we sell Boselli? Do we not? Is it better? Is it worse? I think it was the best decision that León did, selling Boselli, because obviously now we see a more developed León. When Elias left, that role was very difficult to fill. And I think now Mena has been doing great. Meneses has been showing out this season. Macias taking the starting role. So I think León has it under control.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point actually, because it was that for so many years it was Elias Hernandez and Boselli. That kind of, if you just stop that, you know what I mean? You stop those two combining,
It's just
you
like assist
basically
goal,
stop
assist
Leon.
goal, assist goal, assist goal.
Yeah.
That was just like
Yeah.
And then you take one out, and all of a sudden it doesn't quite work. But if you take both out, then all of a sudden you're actually looking to do something different. And obviously, you know, I also think Joel Campbell is gonna.
Yeah.
I think he could be a big signing as well as the season moves forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so really quickly running down other noteworthy Liga MX results. So Monterrey and Tigres both got some wins, although they were some narrow wins. They had a little bit of trouble there. They got some 3-2 wins, so they remained in the top two. Cruz Azul dealt with another loss. They had a 2-1 defeat at home by Santos Laguna. That's now they're now winless in the last 3 games. And also really quickly, Rafa Puente Jr. no longer managing Querétaro. Querétaro, who've just been a complete mess recently. I mean, over the weekend, they had an injury in that game, a red card in that game, a missed penalty. That was their 7th loss in 7 games. They're now in last place. So it's just that a complete disaster for Querétaro. But now it looks like Vucetich is in charge. King Midas himself. I think the last time he was with Querétaro, that was around the same time that like Ronaldinho was with the team and like leaving playoff games in the middle of matches, like driving home. but really quickly to you, Kari, any other things you want to highlight from the Liga MX weekend before we move on to the next segment?
I think Cruz Azul, they're not really worse than last season. I think they just don't have as much luck this season. I think Caute and Caraglio do nothing for the team. Honestly, there's no like matador, the goal, like there isn't. So I think last year they got lucky. This season it's showing out, and they're struggling. Querétaro, I think their biggest loss was Mir and Volpi. I mean, that's their biggest duo loss, and it's showing. And wasn't Chepo supposed to replace Rafa Puente ago? And then now all of a sudden it's Vucetich, which I'm happy with Vucetich, but I was like, oh, but maybe Chepo's now taking over, and now it's not. So I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, no, I saw those rumors too, so I was like slightly surprised, but I guess not really surprised because of Vucetich, who's had some experience with the team. So I wasn't really that shocked when I saw that announcement. But yeah, but I feel like I saw some different reports saying that it might be Chepo who would take charge, but we'll see what Chepo's next project is going to be, since this one didn't.
Just quickly on Querétaro though, I don't think it matters who the manager is. You know, they've got to improve the squad.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're not going to improve the squad, then they're going to have to kind of ride out a period of bad results with you. I mean, playing.
No, Tom, Wi-Fi is going in and out. It's not working. Your Wi-Fi is just as good as Querétaro's.
Yo.
Hello. Right. There we go.
There you go.
No.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as bad as what shown this season.
You lost
back.
Yeah.
Back.
Oh, yes.
All right, let's get this one more time. Tom. Let's give it a go. Let's see.
No, yeah, I mean, I don't think Querétaro is as bad as the table shows, but unless they start buying players, either buy players or ride out some bad results and give time for the younger players to kind of develop, then they're not going to be competing, at the top end of the league. I mean, it's a team that isn't that great. I don't think it's the worst team in the league, but if you were to write a kind of preseason power rankings, then they'd be, down in 14th, 15th, 16th, 15th for me. So Vucetich is going to come in. I don't. Is he going to be promised money? I don't know. I just can't see how he's going to have this kind of Midas touch, like they say, and kind of turn this team around. I mean, the team isn't good enough right now, and that's the bottom line. It doesn't matter who the manager is.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. We got about 10 or 15 minutes left here. Let's really quickly let's talk about Tata Martino and some of the comments he had last week about MLS and Liga MX. So this is a quote from him regarding the two leagues. He said there are probably a greater number of competitive games in the Mexican League or MLS than the Spanish or English leagues. Obviously, a lot that made some news after he said that. Maybe he was just I don't know, trying to appease some people there. But let's start with Tom on this. Tom, I mean, I mean, your thoughts on that statement regarding the competition, because I mean, the pickup games I play are pretty competitive too, but I'm not getting call-ups to Mexico. So I don't know. I don't. What are your thoughts on this? Because it definitely made a lot of news last week.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's not an idiot. You know, he knows that the level of play is higher in, you know, La Liga or the Premier League than in Mexico. I mean, he's not stupid like that. But you know, and what he's basically saying is, if you're playing in Mexico week in week out, you're playing against a team that has at least a reasonable chance. For you have to maintain yourself as a player. You know, you can't kind of dip a little bit because then. But I mean, I don't think that. I think it's flawed. You know, I think the theory is completely flawed, to be honest, because if you look at, you know, Raul Jimenez, you know, how many competitive games do Wolves have? Well, they've got a competitive game every single week. You know, I mean, when they play, and not just competitive, but they're playing against elite managers, they're playing against elite teams. So how much is Raul Jimenez going to learn from playing a team that, you know, that is way better than Wolves, say a Liverpool or a Man City or a Tottenham, you know, who are going to employ specific tactics to stop him, you know, running the Wolves attack like he has been doing. I mean, there's no price you can pay for that kind of development, of that kind of learning from a player's point of view. Nestor Araujo in Celta Vigo, I mean, it's just the level of attacking player that he has to come up against in La Liga is so much high, is not so much higher, but it's higher than in Liga MX. And I disagree with what he's saying in terms of Celta Vigo week in, week out have competitive games. You know, no doubt about it. Same with Linus, same with Guardado. I mean, you know, I think the way I think what you were saying was kind of like, if you're Barcelona, maybe, you know, if you play for Barcelona, then maybe you've only got, I think he said 8 games or no per season in the Premier League or something. But I mean, I don't know. I just think it's flawed. I think he's kind of speaking to his employers.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's maybe not great stressing that players need to go to Europe. I think he suffered a lot of sorrow because of that, not just in the with the club owners and you know, basically I don't think some people within the Mexican game liked him because of that, and I think Martino now is being so careful not to tread on those same toes.
Yeah, Kata, your thoughts? Is because it feels, I don't know, maybe he's just trying to appease everyone. Maybe he's just trying to be, you know, he's taking the political route here and is just saying, like, you know what, that, you know, these leagues are legitimate. I know your thoughts on that recent statement by Tata.
I mean, he's in a tough spot, so they can twist and turn everything he says, whether it's good or bad. So I think he is kind of just appeasing everybody and, you know, giving everybody what they want to hear. But I mean, it's kind of like, what do? Do you say what you really feel, or do you just play around? Because at the end of the day, you have to play around. You have to play nice. You can't, you know, have enemies. So
at least not this early on. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he's just pleasing everybody. I mean, obviously, I agree with Tom. You know, like, especially like the 2 players that you said, Nestor and Jimenez, they always have competing games every single week. So I think when it comes to exportation from Mexico to the U.S., it's just choosing wisely and exporting quality. It's not about quantity; it's about quality. But I do agree with what Tom says.
What about Chaton Enriquez in
no.
Or Ammonia, Nicosia,
or Gulli, second division of Holtman? No, those players don't count.
Hey, maybe they're competitive leagues though. You don't know. You never know. All right. Go ahead, Tom. Sounds like
nice. I mean, I don't know. I just think Martino also doesn't have a choice. I think he's worked in MLS, and I think if anybody analyzes what's going on from a kind of a financial, I think with Salcedo coming back, for example, more than all the others, I think Salcedo's more than the Fabiano, more than the Layun. I think the Salcedo one really tells you the financial power of the big Liga MX clubs. And obviously we know the MLS clubs can match that when it comes to naming designated players. They can't match that when it comes to the average wage, but they've got the pulling power for the Mexican players. And I think that Martino basically knows that it's unlikely we're going to see waves of Mexican players going to Europe. So therefore, he's got to create a group. And if Tata Martino is good at one thing, it's creating a group is creating a union within the group of players. So I think he has to say those things as well. You know what I mean? Because he knows he's going to be dealing with a group of players who are based here or in MLS. So. Yeah. I think he's quite intelligent with that message that he's sending, even though I don't think it's true, and it's goes completely against what Chicharito's been saying. Guardado's said consistently. Rafa Marquez has said consistently. I mean, these are guys for me. Those players have been there from an early age. They've had the career. They played in Mexico. Some of them played in MLS. You got to listen to those guys. They know way more than me. They know more than us. I mean, listen to their experience and what they say about why it's better to play at a top level. Don't listen to us. You know what I mean? Listen to those guys who've been there and done it. Listen to Raul Jimenez. Does he think if he'd have stayed with America, or if he'd have gone back to America instead of going to Wolves, if he thinks he'd be a better player? I mean, I just don't get the argument.
Yeah, no. And speaking of those Mexicans in Europe, let's wrap up the show with just at least a few more minutes on some of those players from abroad, because I think there are two things I want to bring up really quickly. And I want to go to Gary on this. I think if we were to look at some of the bigger news stories from Mexicans in Europe last week, we have to talk about Lainez. He got his first goal, Real Betis, last week. It was during the 3-3 Europa League draw. Thoughts on the significance of this for Lainez getting that first goal for him, and also in a big game. He got the equalizer late in that match.
I think it's for his age and everything happening at once. I think this couldn't have come in a better time. I think there's some people on Twitter saying, calm down, it's his first goal. Like, yeah, obviously we need to keep our feet on the ground, and he's still young. He's going to, run into obstacles and stuff, but why not celebrate? Why not celebrate this youngster who we love his, he's exporting at a young age. He's getting that career started young, in such an important tournament, and equalizing. I mean, it means so much, but obviously you have to turn, let's celebrate for the day. All right, next day he has to get back to work. It's always, there's more coming. I think it's just a big obstacle that he's going to have to face day by day because of his age. And, if it's a Liga game, if it's a league game, I mean, he also has Copa del Rey too. So that, he can also make a huge impact there. Depending if, they pass and they play, further. So I celebrate. Let's celebrate Lainez. Why not?
Yeah. Even though I was definitely one of those party poopers online, because everyone's like, "Oh, que golazo! What a golazo!" Line. It's like, nah, dude, that was an all right goal. I don't know. That was an okay goal. But once again, we should be. No, you're right. That we should be celebrating. We should be happy, especially too, because I feel like with a player like that, because he is an attack-minded player. I mean, he's not an out-and-out striker. He's more so of a winger or attack-minded midfielder. But you sometimes do wonder, like, oh, when is that first goal going to happen? When is that moment going to happen? And you never know, like, how much this could really help his confidence and his self-esteem going forward. I know things weren't exactly that exciting for Real Betis in their following La Liga match over the weekend, but still, they got another Europa League match coming up this week on Thursday, and you do wonder, it's like, all right, maybe he feels a little bit more comfortable after that. Maybe he feels a little bit more, once again, confident. So I think it is good for his career, whether it was a goal lost from 50 yards out or whether it hit him in the back of his calf and it bounced into the goal. A goal's a goal, and that's all that matters. And yeah,
and you know what? Because he's not a striker, so why not celebrate the goals that he does get? He's more of a playmaker. That's what people don't get.
But I also think it feeds into what we were just saying then about the players and what Martino's comments. Basically, Lainez has been thrown at 18 years old. He's been thrown a challenge. He's gone to Betis, and right early on, Setien has said to him, "All right, then you're here. Show me, Show me what you got." And what Lainez has done, and this is the brilliant thing about it, not whether he scores a goal or not, is that he's stepped up to it. You know what I mean? And then he's thrown him in again. And he stepped up to it, and he started a game, and he stepped up to it. He's not scored a hat-trick and an assist and won the game on his own, because that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to expect that. But what he's done is he's met that challenge, and that is what you want to see from your players. You want to see him to step up to to take on the challenge and then rise to it. And I think that's for me is what the beauty of what Lainez has done in these first few weeks with Betis.
Yeah. And then really quickly, some of the other noteworthy things that happened. I mean, we got to bring up, if we're bringing up goal scorer, we got to bring up Herrera. What was that?
Chaton?
Chaton Enriquez, not making the game day roster. Biggest news of the year. Let's analyze this for an extra 45 minutes. talk about the significance and also talk about his Instagram account. Actually, I don't follow him on Instagram anymore. Is he still posting crazy things on Instagram right now?
I don't follow him.
Tom, do you follow him on Instagram?
I don't know, but apparently in Guadalajara he used to particularly like the ladies, and I think that was some of the. I don't know. I think he got into a bit of trouble, to be honest.
Oh,
I think that was not trouble. I'm talking about in terms of his career.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that I heard was that like he was kind of, I don't know, he had his eye turned on certain other things,
certain distractions,
certain distractions rather than playing and being a great professional.
Well, that was 30 seconds more in Chaton than I expected. Although I did actually include him, but like, in the show notes, but actually like crossed it out as a joke. But I guess that's what I get. That's what I get. I put that out there as a joke, so I guess we did end up talking about Chaton. But really quickly, Herrera, he scored once again for Porto. He scored the first goal to reach a 2-0 win. And then we also got to talk about Chucky. Let's end the show on Chucky. I know it's about 8:04 right now, we're a little bit later, but I guess we started the show late, so it's okay. So maybe we can go for a few more minutes. But Tom, I want to go to you on this. I mean, Chucky's back from his concussion, but he was substituted out at halftime. I think PSV manager basically said something along the lines of that Chucky wasn't doing the things that were asked of him in the 2-2 draw. Is this a positive, a negative? What do we make of this situation?
No, it's a negative. I mean, I think it raises the question of whether, I don't know, have things started to get to his head? Does he think he's bigger than the team? With all the rumours. I mean, it's not easy. He's a young guy. He's been rumoured with all these clubs. You know what I mean? I think it poses the question. I'm not saying it's true because I honestly don't know. But again, I mean, this is what you get in Europe. You can be the big name of the team. You don't do it for half. You don't track back for one half, and he takes you off. I do know that Chucky, when he was coming through the Pachuca system, a lot of the time he was sub. He wasn't actually kind of at under 17 level. He wasn't a regular starter. And the reason he wasn't a regular starter was because he didn't do the tracking back. He didn't have the defensive responsibilities. He wasn't very good at following instructions. Obviously, when he gets the ball, he's just always, he knows what he's doing. But, and I think that it's the part of his game he still has to work on. We know he can do it because we've seen it with the national team, against Germany, was unbelievable at tracking back. But I don't know. I just think it's hopefully Van Bommel's message. I mean, Van Bommel as well was obviously a top player. Hopefully Van Bommel's message does kind of reach home and Lozano now kind of redoubles his efforts because, I think PSV have drawn the last two games as well. Ajax are there just right behind them. So I think they play Feyenoord on Sunday, so it's a big game.
Whoa,
big game, yeah. And the thing with Lozano though, I do back him to respond. I don't think he's the type that's going to kind of throw his toys out the pram. No, know that phrase?
Yeah, I heard that phrase. I had to actually what is it? I heard because I listened to, was it Football Weekly, that podcast, and I heard that, and I was like, what is the pram? What is this pram? I was like, oh, okay. It's like
buggy.
Yeah. Oh, that's that. What did you just say, Tom? You say buggy?
Buggy.
What is that, Tom? I think you're just making words up now, Tom. But anywho, Kari, really quickly, your thoughts on the Lozano situation? Maybe he can use this as a little bit of I don't know, maybe he could take it as some constructive criticism. I know Tom's talked about that. That he struggled before in the past. I know even when he was younger, I think it was actually kind of fascinating. Like apparently, Eric Gutierrez kind of like helped him out when they were younger, when he would kind of like struggle. But your thoughts on this situation?
I think it's just constructive criticism. I mean, coaches have to be hard sometimes, and if he sees the reality, he sees team's going to have to do something about it. And obviously, Chucky knows that fan base, loves him and has his back, but also noticing when he doesn't have a good game. So I think it's just constructive criticism. I definitely think he'll bounce back. So not a setback whatsoever. Some players have bad games and they move on from it. So that's it.
Chucky, if you're listening, hopefully you learned from that lesson. Hopefully that is some constructive criticism. Do not throw your toys out of the pram. I googled it. Google says British. A four-wheeled carriage for a baby, pushed by a person on foot. Okay.
It's a good phrase. That's how you just introduce it to the American vernacular.
Yeah. No. I'm sure.
But you get what I mean? It's like, obviously a baby, when they're angry, they got all the toys in the pram and they're like...
A four-wheeled
not
carriage
happy.
for a baby, pushed by a person on foot. Yes.
Yeah, let's end the show. I don't know.
Yeah, well, when I'm looking up the definition of words, of British words, that's right now we gotta close it out. But anywho, we're gonna so that about wraps it up things for us. So thank you everyone on the YouTube chat. Thank you everyone who listened to this. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Caddy. And we'll have Caddy. You'll have the honor of wrapping up this episode. Your final thoughts. It could be about anything. It could be about
football podcast coming out.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So join us this week for our football podcast. Definitely catch us talking about Liga MX, femenil, men's, anything about football. Thank you guys for joining us on Monday Night Football with the Mexican Soccer Show. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode and stay tuned for next week's.
All right. See you guys around. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on the next edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. All right. See you around.